The NHL draft is coming up, and we kind of just wanted to look at, some Lou Lamoriello draft day trades, because we've been very trade focused right now, which makes sense because the time, like leading up to the draft and the free agency, that's when trades happen after the Stanley Cup comes to a close, in the next few days here, probably. Like, that's going to ramp up even more so. So that's why there's a major focus on it. But kind of just looking at it at a more micro level at draft day trades.
Yeah, and like Lou has been active specifically over the last 4 years. Maybe not just on draft day itself, but if you very close to the draft window, he has been active. He's already been active now, right? He already sent the first to Chicago, who has now since moved it on to, I forget who, because they moved up to 7th in the draft at Chicago. I think it was Ottawa they sent it to. Or there was a proposal. Sorry. No.
Yeah, because Ottawa's open to trading out of 7, right? That's the story? Okay.
Sorry, that was me conflating two things. I was reacting, or my mind was putting in place a tweet from Puckpedia that was kind of pimping out their draft
nice,
not rankings, but they have this kind of grading system where they grade every value of every draft pick, like the actual just number. And they showed like Chicago could send the 20th plus every one of their other picks, and it still wouldn't match Ottawa's number 7 in terms of the potential future value you might get from that. So sorry, Chicago did not move on from that trade. But the whole point here is that Lou Lamoriello has already made a trade, and we're like a month away from the draft now. We are X number of days closer today. So he's going to do something.
He's going to do something, but then also like looking at, even like in recent Lou Lamoriello history, the Romanov trade was a draft day trade. So like that, so that's the first one that jumped out to me. There's 3 each at different points in Lou Lamoriello's career that to me really stand out as, draft day moves in a sense, or moving around the board even a little bit. But for Islanders history, the first one that jumped out was, the Romanov trade. And that kind of seemed to come out of nowhere because if I remember correctly, weren't they in on JT Miller earlier in the day? And it felt like the Islanders are going to make a big move for JT Miller.
Yeah, they were that was part of it. It seemed like they were in on that, and it broke down for whatever reason, probably because someone leaked that they were doing it, and Lou's like, no, which I don't entirely believe it's that dramatic when it comes to Lou. Because anyways, we don't need to really litigate that. But yeah, you send a 13th overall for Alex Romanov. At that point, we're going, we need, quality NHL talent. And then he trades for a guy who's been in the league for like 2 years. You're saying, I like it. We all kind of liked it to a certain degree, but it did kind of throw us for a curve because you don't see Lou Lamoriello trading a 13th overall pick for a 20, I believe he's 22 at the time.
Yeah.
You just don't see that happen usually from a Lou Lamoriello. So it not only signal activity, but and we have to remember that the lead up towards this trade, when we're just looking at trades and Lou and draft, the period around the draft, most of his trades have been offboarding, right? The 2 drafts before that, he was clearing the way to make room to do something later at a later date. Whereas this is very much, I'm bringing something in. Complete role reversal or flip in terms of the oh my God, the goal.
Yeah.
The goal and what he was doing instead of offloading, he's onloading. And then in terms of the age of the player, he's no longer just bringing in an established veteran. He's bringing in an established like rookie basically. So it's a complete 360 from Lou.
Yeah, it was. And I didn't realize the Islanders also got a 4th round pick, which turned into Isaiah George from that trade.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So you get Romanov, and now you have Isaiah George in the system as well. Right. So there's a lot to be excited about with Isaiah George. I know I said it before. I know some of you specifically have mentioned him before. You listening at home. There's a lot to like about him. But let's manage expectations with him. But you're right. Like, we sent a 1st round pick that turned into, I believe, Frank Nazar is what Chicago used to draft. And we got Romanov, who has been playing 2 years now for the Islanders, right? So you got full 2 years before Frank Nazar has even hit at the NHL. I think he just played his first couple of games at the end of this year for Chicago. You've already made the playoffs. He looks pretty good, and he's only 24 years old. And now you've got Isaiah George as well, who is going to be starting his pro career basically at the same friggin' time as Frank Nazar. He's maybe 6 months off. That's it. Wow, what are we doing here? That's an absolute beauty of a win right there for us.
No, it is, and I think we've both stated that we're big fans of Alex Romanov, and at his age, he's just played his 24th season. He turns 25 in January of next year, so he'll play the first few months of the year even still in his age 24 season. So I think he's going to be an important piece to this team for the foreseeable future. I think a shrewd move, wasn't really expecting that, and kind of want a replica of that this offseason, right? Like flipping that first round pick for a young but NHL ready player.
Exactly, right? Like everyone wants to see Marty Nietzsche's, but we all know we don't have the tools to, not the tools, the assets to bring him in. But if you're talking about something like maybe Line, Columbus, I don't know if they could use the first round pick. I'm sure they've got a crap ton already. But maybe they package a first rounder with someone who's on an expiring deal, like a Marchenko, and they bring someone else in, maybe like a Marty Nietzsche's. Whereas we don't have that ability to do so. But you're right. You want to bring someone in who's not 28 going on 29 in August type of situation. Not that would be the end of the world, but the ideal candidate is like 26 to 23 years old, around that, right? Not like fresh face taking his first steps in the NHL, but we've already seen signs of that talent. He's just looking to take the next step. That would be the ideal candidate for us, assuming we could pick that up.
Correct.
But yeah, Alex Romanov trade 2.0-ish would be ideal.
Shane Pinto. Yes, sorry. Just because we've beaten that one to death so many times, but like essentially that.
Yeah, and so like we do have to remember that Lou Lamoriello has been active around these drafts. Yes, we've already seen that one trade, but I think everyone and their mother knows that trade wasn't the end of the road for Lou Lamoriello. He didn't make that trade so he can get 2 second-round picks to sit on and make picks. That's just not what he's going to do. No, that would be really dumb for him, because this is not the draft to be moving back and acquiring more picks.
No,
really,
no.
So he's going to be using that for something. And again, Lou is active in 2023. You mentioned it earlier, he sends Josh Bailey to Chicago for plus a second for futures. So again, an offloading type trade. 22, he makes that Alex Romanov trade you made.
Yep.
In 21, Andrew Ladd and Nick Leddy are traded away. This is both 6 and 7 days before the actual first day of the draft that year, but still, the time period is there. In 2020, 6 and 5 days prior or after the draft, Devon Toews traded to Colorado. AJ Greer and he swaps the AHL prospects. I just put it in because he did it.
Yep.
So 4 years straight where he's doing something in and around the draft. This is a hot period of time for Lou Lamoriello. He's going to be working the phones day in and day out, which really just means 8 to 4 p.m. But still, he's going to be working them. Maybe right after he gets his morning berries, he's right on those phones, baby.
Yeah, I like that. Working the phones, doing the thing. Now's the time for him to do that. And I think he's had, maybe not all the ones that you've listed off. I wouldn't say all of them were successes. Some of them he had to do, like, for instance, Devon Toews is not, you can't say that was a success, but like, I think both you and I are not nearly as hard on him for that trade than a lot of Islander fans are. But either way, moral of the story. So the Romanov one I brought up, there were 2 that I thought were also major wins from earlier in his career. Not just wanted to point them out. Not that we have to go in detail on them, but the Corey Schneider trade in 13, I guess.
Yes.
I landed the Devils a franchise goalie on draft day, and then in 1990 he traded down from 11 to 20 and drafted Martin Brodeur with the 20th pick. I would say that's a major win.
If you like that, make sure to subscribe to Up the Turnpike on Patreon for more exclusive New York Islanders content.